Hi, how are you today? Today I'm going to talk about a strategy that I use and I call it parts of me. And it's a strategy that I've used to help me cope with things that I find quite overwhelming, like big pain, big emotions, big feelings. So we all operate in dualities and polarities, right? Between sort of extremes. And it's those extremes, it's the contrast between the two that creates the space for learning and reflection and growth. And sometimes we might be having one end of the spectrum of the experience. So for me, I had the experience of really debilitating pain for quite some time. It was not with chronic fatigue, it was with rheumatoid arthritis. And it was so extreme, although we didn't know what it was then, it was so extreme that it permeated every moment of my day and most of my nights. I didn't get a lot of peace from it. I didn't have a lot of downtime. Painkillers couldn't touch it. Um, it was just my entire world was literally pain, and it was incredibly difficult to manage. I mean, I couldn't manage it. I did read somewhere once that um, suffering is optional. And I can say that, boy, I took that option. I suffered. I mean, I suffered a lot. I, it was just, I just full amazement for people who live in chronic pain for years and years. Um, just amazing. I mean, I experienced it for around about a year and a half, and that had me on my knees. It really, really did. It was the hardest experience I've ever had in my entire life. It took me to places that I didn't think it was possible for me to go, and really showed me that um, we're all human, you know. Anything is possible given the right motivation, in good ways and bad ways, or hard ways. And yeah, anyway, I don't know how to how to talk about that, but anyway, um, so yeah, it was really challenging. And what was really challenging was, how could I work with that pain? How could I um, work through it? And people said some interesting things to me. Particularly one person told me to embrace that pain and love that pain and accept that pain. And I was just like, fuck off. Like, how the fuck, what? Like, have you ever been in pain? I just made me so angry and so upset and so frustrated, and because I am a very spiritually oriented person, and I see the bigger picture. That's who I am. That's how I am. I've always been very holistic in my perspective. Um, and this pain was a very leveling experience. It really brought me back, smack bang back into my body. I couldn't escape it. And so, doing something as esoteric as embracing and loving my pain just felt just outrageous and like too much. I told the person at the time it wasn't very helpful. Um, yeah, boy, it really wasn't. So each to their own, each to their own. If it works for you, it works for you. But it really didn't work for me. And so I searched for a way of thinking about pain, um, or, yeah, thinking about the pain, a way of constructing the pain, a way of putting it that felt okay for me. And what I came up with was this parts of me thing. So, quantum physics says it's possible for two electrons to be simultaneously in different places at any one time. And probably more than that, but I don't know how many times, spaces, places they were able to measure at any one time. So we operate in this universe that we we predominantly think is very three-dimensional, but of course there are all these other dimensions, space, time dimensions. And so from my perspective, there's not just one version of me right here, right now. There's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of other versions of me doing different things, experiencing different things in different places and times. And so what I did is I kind of, and this is fascinating to me because it goes against this, well, I don't know if it goes against, but it seems as if it's oppositional to my perspective of um, the whole, being part of the whole, and seeing things from a very holistic perspective. But what I did is I reframed it so that a part of me, a version of me, was having this experience of pain. But there are other versions of me doing really cool things like climbing Mount Everest and kayaking on the Nile or the Kaligandaki or something, or walking the Appalachian Trail, or all these other cool things. And when I was able to reframe it so that a part of me is having this pain experience, what I was able to do was I was able to really create a gap between who I was as a human being, as a soul, and the experience that I was having. And what I found was in that gap was possibility and potential. Possibility and potential for healing, for growth, for evolution, for change. And so that was very powerful for me. Just that little tiny little glimmer of light, that little gap, enabled me to really move through things with a lot more grace than I had been managing before. The other thing that enabled me to do was it was enabled me to see this part of me having this experience from an observer sort of perspective. And that enabled me to really embrace and love and feel deep, deep compassion for the part of me that was having that experience for what was ultimately my benefit, our growth, and our learning. And so I really found that an incredibly powerful way of viewing it. And it felt good to me. It felt like a powerful perspective to hold. And when you're chronically unwell, holding as many powerful perspectives and consciously choosing them is so important. Feeling as if you are in control and in charge of at least a little bit of your destiny, how you respond to what's happening to you, is so important, and it makes such a big difference. So for me, thinking about myself in parts really enabled me to do that. It also really enabled me to understand and to experience what self-compassion meant for me and to me. So for me, when I view myself from the observer perspective as having an experience like pain or frustration or tiredness or upset or anger or whatever, I can notice and observe, oh, part of me is having this experience. And when I say that to myself, I just feel such deep love and compassion for that part of me, for myself. And so it's like energetically I envelop that part of me and embrace that part of me in a way that I hadn't really known how to do before. So I encourage you to try it on, give it a go, see if it works for you. I hope it does. I hope it does. It's a beautiful thing, and responding to yourself in such a deeply loving and kind way is, it's just magical. It really is. Okay, lots of love.